Hey guys, welcome to this week's podcast episode. And I've got Tachi Egwu, and she is Dr. Tachi by her brand name. And she is a filmmaker, creator, and journalist. And she founder and CEO of Mediascope, all things media. And it's going to be a great conversations around the future of media, trends and predictions. And I'm really happy to have her on. Dr. Tachi, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I really love because you've got 17,000 followers on YouTube. That's no joke. And talk about how your story, how you got here. And I'm really excited to dive into the conversation.
Absolutely. So he's already said people call me Dr. Tachi. I'm a media professor, a filmmaker, a media content producer, also a journalist. And I actually started out live streaming and doing live streams around 2012, but really doing them for other organizations. But then in 2015, I'm sure that's when Periscope and Meerkat came around. And I said, I really want to do this, but what the hell am I going to do? So I waited. It debuted in March because it had just come out. Meerkat had just come out at South by Southwest. And then a month later came Periscope. And a whole bunch of people were jumping on board and telling people how to get a whole bunch of followers on Periscope, which I was like, how do you know? It just started. But I digress. But I was watching what people were doing, and the first thing I always tell people is to watch and see what's happening in the space before you try to jump in, which is what I did. And I said, I already teach this. Why don't I just do this? And bam, that's how Mediascope was born in 2015. So we're in our 9th year of providing media tech and pop culture news with a side of fun and foolishness to the audience. That's how I got to this point, short story or long story.
Yeah, I really love that. And really you can hear some exciting trends at South by Southwest and see where you follow where the innovation is going. And that's you follow the Gen Z and all where the trends. I'm really excited about this idea of trends in content creation. What are some emerging trends in creation that creators should pay attention to? I know we're coming to the end of this year, but 2025 and beyond.
So I would say for the past few years, it has been the age of the independent content creator, right? You don't have to beg any particular news organization or station to put you on because you can put yourself on. So with that, there has been more of an importance of social media in all of this, and not just as a means to get to another platform, but creators really realizing these are platforms in and of themselves. And I think this will only continue into next year because if you think about it, when we talk about now, not everybody is able to monetize to a high level just using a platform, but there are lots of creators that are using places like YouTube and TikTok and Instagram to really monetize what they're doing. Meaning, I don't really have to do this for free anymore, even though I love it, but I can get compensated in some way, shape, or form. So I think we're going to see an even greater importance of independent content, especially on social media. It's already risen, but I think it will just go through the roof. It will be astronomical, particularly because if you remember last year, around this time, we were dealing with the strikes, right? The actors strike, SAG-AFTRA. We were also dealing with the writers strike. And so that really cut down on the traditional linear content that people were able to see. And remember, we were also just coming off of a pandemic. So nobody in Hollywood was really creating anything unless it was done before the pandemic. And then here we come with the strikes. So this is really when creators started to see the power that they had in their own hands. So I think we're going to see even more of that because there is power in independent content creation. So hopefully I answered your question properly.
Yeah, which brings up an important topic of conversation is this topic of AI. And I've really used AI in my. So where do you see AI fitting to all of this? And do you see it replacing for some things? I can replace an editor with AI, and some things I need to have an editor or need some like original human content. But where do you see AI playing into all of this?
That is an excellent thought trajectory because AI is involved all up around and through content creation, through media. It really is. I think in terms of, let's start with replacement first. No, it will only replace if you want it to replace, and it will replace people who are not adept. I hate to say it like that, but it's the truth. So if you don't understand how to use AI in your favor and use it to help you as a tool and not to create for you, then you're going to be in trouble. But the creators who understand that AI is there to be a tool and not create for you, oh, you're going to be able to really fly with it. So I think that AI is critically important. The people that are running from it, I urge you to run toward it, because what usually tends to happen with late adopters to things is they miss out not only on audience share, which means their message doesn't get out there, but they also miss out on potential monetization opportunities because you understand how to use this. So instead of running from it, I would tell people to run toward it. Be cautious. As with anything, you need to be cautious. But if you put your head in the sand, you're going to be in real trouble. And I'm not just talking about traditional content creators who are creating media for platforms just on different types of things for entertainment. I'm also talking about the people who use it for business, the realtors who are using it, real estate especially. You definitely want to harness this and use it for not just your content creation, but your businesses in general. If you are in retail, definitely use this. So this is for every single field, not just traditional, the ones we traditionally think would make content.
Yeah, really fascinating insights. And if it's anything, for example, if the realtors' commissions are cut in half, and we've seen the demolition of traditional media, mainstream media. Not, I haven't watched CNN in over 30 years, 20 years, something years.
You're not missing much.
Yeah, I know. Those used to be the go-to news source. Now we go to Twitter or X or Discord. The other question I have for you is, because this is one of the big topic this year, especially in the States, is censorship. And Europe, UK, they're arresting people if you post something on Twitter, and Brazil banned X. And here we have, it's actually a fight for free speech. And Zuckerberg was saying that how he was pressured to censor or downgrade some. So how does censorship play into if these algorithms are biased by governments and corporations, how can we get a fair shake?
This is really interesting because I think it's a combination of many things. Obviously, it is important for things, especially like journalism, telling the whole story, speaking truth to power, to be able to have an outlet to speak truth to power and to say these things. At the same time, your free speech ends where somebody else's rights begin. And I think we have to be very cognizant of that, because there can be a misuse of that on all sides, right? Sometimes we'll have governments that will do things in an attempt to censor what people are saying, which if you should not be afraid of what people have to say if you're doing what is right and for the people, right? But on the other side, we have a misuse sometimes by the end user in terms of that, in terms of what truth they speak, because we all know that social media, I shouldn't say social media, but people on social media have been very guilty of spreading half truths, fables, outright lies without fact checking. So
Yeah.
there's a propensity for that as well. So I think it's not just one or the other, it's both. We have to be very cautious, very careful. I do understand also the need to protect some things. If you are a nation, there are some things that you need to protect that you don't want out on X or social media. If you ask me, social media should not be the official word of a government. That can be in addition to whatever else you do, but I find it disconcerting when policy, etc., is put out on X. That should be in addition to what else you do, but that shouldn't be the only source of what you do. So I think this is going to be interesting, and this will develop in years to come.
Yeah, really, it's going to be really, because basically now we have, instead of 4 or 5 news outlets, we have potentially hundreds of millions of influencers and news, big brands. And it's really misinformation, disinformation. And then also now you can, with the rise of Gen AI creating deep fakes and fake news and a lot of fake information that can really cause riots. It can cause wars, can cause a lot of disruption. The other question I have for you, because now, especially this area of live streaming, how does live streaming, because this it's really interesting because traditionally live streaming has been with gaming, and but now a lot of you see a lot of TikTok live streams, Instagram live stream, Facebook. How does that playing out in this era of video consumption, short form video content, podcasts, YouTube, all of that?
These platforms keep changing the metrics and keep moving the goalpost in terms of what matters, and I'm sure you've seen this. One day they'll be like, "Hey, short form content is the big thing. Everybody make that." And then everybody rushes to, actually, we changed our minds. We actually want more still carousel photos. And then everybody does that. They keep changing the metric. They keep moving the goalposts in terms of what works. Now, granted, I do understand that part of the reason for creating content is for an audience to see it. And if it's not picked up by an algorithm, you don't get the most bang for your work, if that makes sense. I do understand that. However, you're you really should be, when I say you, is the proverbial, you as an individual or as individuals, we should be more concerned with engaging and building community. When you do that, people come to your content. I think people sometimes have the wrong idea about, oh, okay, if you build it, they will come. Not always. Why would I come and watch you when I don't know who you are? You haven't even reached out to try and attempt to get to know me. You don't say anything to me when I come in your live stream. So why would I do that? So I think the first thing is to really start to build community. Then in terms of, if we're talking about live, I think live is still important. There are all sorts of studies and all sorts of people who say how important live is. But again, all of this is dependent on the platform that you're using and whether or not they choose to prioritize live and push it out. That's why it's important that you build a community that values what you do. Like, I'm a live streamer. I make all kinds of content, but let's be honest, live, not that it's easy, but it's easier in terms of post-production. If I don't want to, which I never do, I don't have to edit any of my lives. The way it comes out is the way it is. I've just what you do, because you do lives every day. I just basically do the live and I run it like a live show. So I have segments, I have cues, I do all the things that I do, and then it comes out like a finished piece of work and I don't have to do any editing. So obviously live is it's less time consuming on the back end. So if you are a live streamer like I am, and you love live, then you need to cultivate an audience that loves live as well. And maybe they're not people that never usually watch live streams, but because it's you, they will. So that's why I'm saying focus on building community. And then if you love live stream, focus on pulling people into the world of live streaming.
Interesting. And where is live streaming as an adoption compared to, because I'm just in terms of a percentage of content creators doing live stream as opposed to like having a YouTube channel or a scheduled podcast. Which is better, like having a scheduled live stream or actually having like a podcast or a blog? Or I'm just curious. It sounds like there's different adoption trends in each of the mediums.
Yeah, every medium has their audience, right? So, and I personally believe that you really should be repurposing everything you do and going across different types of things. So, if you have the bandwidth, definitely do. So, let's talk about a live stream. You do it. You can take the audio from that, maybe cut it up a little bit, and come up with a podcast. Right there, you go. You can use an AI tool, get the script from there, and then go ahead and write that as a blog post. And in that blog post, you can put a link to the particular episode of the podcast and the live stream. And all of this came from one live stream. And then in addition, what you could do is carve that up so that you have YouTube shorts, you've got reels for Instagram, you've got TikTok videos. You could do all sorts of things. So from that one piece of content, you were able to create so much. So that's what I think. There's no such thing as what is better.
Uh-huh.
It's what you have the bandwidth for, right? And how many different ways can I cut up what I'm doing?
Mm. So it's just basically one sitting, but you can repurpose it and reformat it for different mediums and platforms and audience.
Yes. Why would you not? You know, they exist. I'm like, do it. Definitely do it. And another thing, another hint is there are so many uh, interns at universities and sometimes high schools that are very proficient in doing some of this type of editing. Get on board. If you have a regular live stream show, get on board with some of these universities' communication departments, their marketing departments, and said, hey, to tell them, hey, I have a show. I've had this show for X amount of years or however long. I have this amount of work that an intern could do. Usually they're going to require 10 to 15 hours per week at least for that semester, and have them help you start to carve this down, because that is where media is and where it's going to be. It's going to be these independent productions. So it's for everybody who wants to work in a traditional media industry, there's not always a job there, but there's always something to do on the independent side.
Mm,
So interns.
yeah. Another adjacent question is, how is live streaming different from a webinar? And talk about the differences while you do a webinar versus a live stream or for the audience.
Excellent. So with a webinar, now they could actually be one and the same, because now capabilities with, for example, Zoom, etc., you can broadcast out to Facebook Live, to YouTube, to different places. And so you are live streaming. So I think the difference there is in purpose. So with a webinar, generally you are there to teach some sort of topic. To maybe that is your, for example, your top of funnel, at the very top of your funnel, where you are trying to draw people in to eventually convert them to a client or a customer. So often that is like what do they call it? Like a tripwire or something to get them in. That's basically what that can be for. You can have a webinar that stands alone by itself that you don't broadcast, and those are more of a closed situation. But then there are the webinars that you can live stream, and it's to get more people involved or on. Now, here's the thing: when you do that with a webinar, you also are not getting all of the participants. So if you live stream it, you have everybody that's in studio, for example, in Zoom or Webinar Jam or whatever you're using. But if you broadcast it out, you don't really actually know who is on the other end with YouTube or Facebook Live, right? You just have the numbers, right? And you have some metrics, but you don't have the people who registered. So if you're looking just to live stream, then live streaming could be entertainment, it could be teaching, it could be a number of things, but you're not concerned with the specific who. With a webinar, you are. So live streaming, one to many, and you're just looking to get people in to listen to the message, but you don't necessarily know the specific who. With a webinar, your purpose is to get to that specific who, so that when in most cases, convert them to a client or customer later on. To me, those are the major differences.
Yeah. Sounds like the analogy is very similar to, you put a ebook on Amazon, you don't know who is purchasing it, but if you put it on your website,
Hmm.
you got the name, email, all of that, and you can follow up. And it's almost like, sounds like what you're describing is like a webinar is like a community, and you control it like a blog or like a podcast, or email list. You control or that the audience. But whereas a live stream is, it gets picked up by the algorithms and they like it, it'll be shown to a lot of people. So it's like, again, you were talking about, you have to do a lot of different things. Interesting.
Yeah.
The other question I had for you is, what is Twitch's role? Because I hear a lot of streamers, they're on Twitch, and why would somebody be on Twitch as opposed to like StreamYard or stream it to LinkedIn or Facebook? What is this streamer, or what is the Twitch community good for? Gamers or?
Initially, yes. So initially, Twitch was really just about gamers. I think it was really when Amazon acquired them that they started to look at other things. There's just an evolution. So while gaming is really still one of the biggest categories on Twitch, you have a lot of DJs. Let me tell you, I listen to so many DJs on Twitch. And part of the thing was that Twitch had less rules around broadcasting music than like Instagram. So what happened is during the pandemic, so many people came on Instagram that were DJing and playing music. And then it was fine at first, but then Instagram started to crack down. So one by one, you start to see the DJs leave Instagram. Many of them hopped over to Twitch
Uh,
because they had the opportunity to do that. Right. So I know some rules and things have changed now with music and Twitch, but initially that was the thing. So there are an awful lot of DJs. They have my show, I broadcast to Twitch, and I'm under the Just Chatting podcast and talk shows area of it. So there are talk shows and podcasts there as well. So every single category, I would say with the exception of live commerce and live selling, because I really haven't seen that. It doesn't mean that it doesn't exist. I just haven't seen it. But every other category you can find pretty well represented. But I think gaming is still by and large the largest category there. So I think if really with Twitch, Twitch is fun. Let me say this. Twitch is fun because there you can send emotes, you can send all sorts of little things. It's like very interactive and it's gamified.
uh,
That may be too much for some people. If that's too much for you, Twitch is not for you, right? So I don't do all of that because I'm going from an encoder like a StreamYard to many places at the same time. Twitch is good. Also, that type of thing. If you're looking to engage just the people on Twitch, where you could do these things like DJ or have a game night and put all these things up on if you're looking to do that and engage just the people on Twitch, then that works. But if you're going to a lot of different platforms, it's a good other place to have because you're allowed to stream there. But it really, if you really have to have an audience or be able to build an audience on Twitch for that to work well.
Interesting. Yeah. Yeah. I'm gonna look into Twitch as another distribution.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Because my audience is very professional and they're just interested in information and education. So YouTube is great, and Twitch might be an alternative too.
Yeah, I mean, I would always say try it because if you for me, that's not where my major audience is. I just go live there because I can. Like you said, it's another distribution channel, but I always do pick up a few stragglers who happen to be on Twitch and they'll watch on Twitch and the experience is good. Now, here's the thing, you can't all your stuff doesn't stay on Twitch. You have, I think, is it a few days or a week before it goes away? Unless you're at a certain level where you can store more. And I am not, and I'm not aiming to be that. So that's why YouTube is really the place that I focus my energy.
Okay. Interesting. Yeah. Wow. Very fascinating conversation. How can people find you and follow you and learn more about live streaming, the future of media, pop culture, technology, entertainment, education?
Yeah, for some reason, I'm really cool with being contacted on Instagram because I'm always there. So I am Dr. underscore Tachi, Dr. underscore Tachi on Instagram. You can send me a DM and I will get back to you. You can also watch my show Mediascope on Wednesdays, 6 p.m. Eastern time, and it's on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, a whole bunch of Twitch and LinkedIn all simultaneously. And also I have network, as I was telling you earlier, of content creators I have about 30 people who produce shows on a regular basis and we go live on YouTube and other platforms Monday through Friday from 4 p.m. Eastern time.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah.
I encourage all the audience to check out Dr. Tachi's resources, her show, follow and like her socials. And thanks so much for coming on.
Thank you for